confused, aren't you? Frightened. That's all right. I can help you.
Who is this?
I am a doctor. Now you must listen to me. You have lost your memory. There was an experiment. Something went wrong. Your memory was erased. Do you understand me?
No, I don't understand. What the hell is going on here?
Just listen. There are people coming for you, even as we speak. You must not let them find you. You must leave now.
Who are you?
We might ask the same question. Yes. Sleep. Now.
Who are they? Why are they trying to kill me? Answer me!
My God. You really can do it.
I did that.
What is to be done? This man is dangerous.
It is said he is able to tune.
Somehow, you have developed their ability to tune. That is how they changed things. That is how they built this city. They have machines buried deep beneath the surface that allow them to focus their telepathic energies.
Hold it right there, mister.
Wait, you have the wrong man.
Stand aside, will you please?
I didn't kill anyone.
Why are they doing all this?
It is our capacity for individuality, our souls, that makes us different from them. They think they can find the human soul if they understand how our memories work.
We must have this man.
(1998) saw the release of Dark City. Produced on a budget of around $27 million, it made its money back, but that's about it. It was considered a flop. It made little profit at the time, but it has become incredibly popular with science fiction and movie fans alike. Directed by Alex Proyas, who had previously worked on the cult favourite The Crow, starring the late Brandon Lee. Alex later went on to direct I, Robot and The Knowing. He isn't really a prolific director, generally directing a movie every 4 years. His most successful film to date is I, Robot, but many critics and fans of his work consider his best work to be from the 90s. Alex Proyas had a few ideas on what he wanted to do in Dark City. One of the things what he wanted to explore in the film is what it is that makes us who we are, and when you strip an individual of his identity, is there some spark, some essence there that keeps them being human? His script was sent around to a number of studios, but they felt it was unfilmable, with the script reading like it was written by a filmmaker and not by a writer. So he got in Lem Dobbs and David S. Goyer involved to help flesh out his script and make it more understandable and easier to sell to an audience. The film's production was all done in Australia, and apparently a number of the sets were reused in The Matrix. You can see some similarities, especially during the corridor and rooftop chases. Dark City has an interesting cast, with Kiefer Sutherland as Dr. Daniel Paul Schreiber, the eccentric and paranoid scientist who assists the strangers. Kiefer's character was inspired by the real-life author with the same name, who wrote the book Memoirs of My Nervous Illness, which many ideas of Dark City were inspired from. Rufus Sewell plays John Murdoch as the confused hero of the movie, who is out to piece together his past. Jennifer Connelly plays John's wife, Emma. Everyone loves Jennifer. She has appeared in a number of classic movies such as The Rocketeer and made her big screen debut in Labyrinth. And William Hurt plays Inspector Frank Bumstead, who is trying to solve a number of murders linked to John Murdoch. That year he also starred in Lost in Space and probably gave the worst performance of his career, but in this film he is a really interesting character and is thankfully fleshed out more in the director's cut. You will recognise a number of familiar faces playing the strangers, but the most obvious one is Richard O'Brien. He is well known for his work on the Rocky Horror Picture Show, and to many kids growing up, he was the host of the Crystal Maze. Richard O'Brien provides a stellar performance in Dark City, and fits perfectly into the visual look and design of the strangers. The strangers themselves are energy beings who reside in dead human bodies. When design first started, the filmmakers considered having the strangers be bugs underneath, but decided that the bug's appearance was overused. The strangers reside in a large underground amphitheatre for their lair, where a human bust hid a large clock and where a spiralling device changes the layout of the city above. The Stranger's visual design very much borrows from Nosferatu and Hellraiser, which sort of lends itself to being confused with the horror genre. In 2008 we got an extended version of Dark City, which removes the voiceover at the beginning and extended the movie roughly by 12 minutes, and improves upon the story, adding more character development. It's not a huge improvement, but it creates a more solid story and is overall more satisfying. The voiceover at the beginning was the biggest issue people had, and also the filmmakers weren't too keen to have it. It was basically included for the dummies, who may struggle to follow any of the movie, and throws the audience member into the film without having to think too hard. It explains about the strangers and what they are doing, and sets up the character Daniel Schreiber. Down to many screen tests and feedback given to the director, his confidence had been eroded somewhat by the comments he had received, so he had to make a decision to sort of dumb the movie down for a general audience, to appease the more commercial aspects of the movie the studio wanted. But after viewing both cuts, the voiceover destroys the mystery of the strangers and the location of the city. The director's cut is the only version I watch now. The movie begins with John Murdoch awakening in a hotel bathtub, suffering from amnesia. He receives a telephone call from Dr. Daniel Schreiber, who urges him to flee the hotel from a group of men who are after him. During the telephone conversation, John discovers the corpse of a murdered woman, along with a bloody knife. Murdoch flees the scene just as the group of men, known as the Strangers, arrive at the room. Eventually he learns his name and finds his wife Emma. He is also sought by Police Inspector Frank Bumstead for a series of murders allegedly committed by Murdoch, who cannot remember killing anybody. A detective named Eddie Walonsky tries to tell Bumstead that the case that they are working on never existed. While being pursued by the Strangers, Murdoch discovers that he has psychokinetic powers like them, referred to as tuning, and uses these powers to escape from them. Murdoch explores the city, which experiences perpetual night. He sees people become temporarily comatose at midnight when the Strangers stop time and alter the city landscape, as well as people's identities and memories. Murdoch discovers through clues and interviews with his family that he was originally from a coastal town called Shell Beach. Attempts at finding a way out of the city to Shell Beach are hindered by the lack of reliable information. Meanwhile, the Strangers, disturbed by the presence of this human who can tune, inject one of their own, Mr. Hand, with Murdoch's intended memories in an attempt to find him. Murdoch meets Walonsky at the subway, and Walonsky tells him that the Strangers take people's memories and replaces them with new ones. Walonsky kills himself by jumping in front of a train rather than risking capture. Murdoch is eventually caught by Bumstead, who recognises Murdoch's innocence and has his own questions about the nature of the city. They confront Dr. Schreiber, who explains that the Strangers are endangered alien parasites who use corpses as their hosts. Having a collective consciousness, the Strangers have been experimenting with humans to analyse their individuality in the hopes that some insight may be revealed that would help their race survive. Schreiber reveals Murdoch as an anomaly who inadvertently awoke during one midnight process, when Schreiber was in the middle of fashioning his identity as a murderer. The three embark to find Shell Beach, which ultimately exists only as a billboard at the edge of the city. Frustrated, Murdoch breaks through the wall, revealing a hole into outer space. The visual effects in Dark City were very impressive for the time, and have dated very well thanks to many of the shots using miniatures, close-ups of the buildings extending in size and moving across in frame, and establishing shots of the city. There was great use of CGI for the adjustments made to the city as well. Because of the limited colour palette and strong contrast, it hides the faults inherent with CGI at the time. Generally, the image will look too soft and lack great amounts of detail. There is one or two very obvious computer-generated effects near the end, but it doesn't stand out in a bad way, and considering the moderately large budget, they managed to achieve a high level of quality throughout the production. Dark City has an incredible soundtrack. Composed by Trevor Jones, this could easily be one of his best scores to date. Once the movie starts, it instantly sets the tone and is very much done in a classic way, with great themes and operatic marches. Once the action kicks in, especially near the end, the music really gets you pumped and excited. The music was later used in the X-Men trailer. The full score was released in limited numbers, but is no longer available, but a CD was released at the time containing a number of tracks and songs from the film, and is still available. Roger Ebert voted Dark City as his #1 favourite film of 1998. Down to his keen interest on the movie, he even went out of his way to provide a commentary to the film, which was included on the DVD release, and new material was recorded for the director's cut in 2008. Dark City was criminally overlooked by the public on its release. It may have been down to the marketing and the distributor struggling to sell the complex but highly original story across to the public, and I believe New Line Cinema advertised this movie as a sort of horror flick. The posters don't really sell the style of the movie, and does have a sort of B-movie horror design. I never saw it on release and don't recall seeing any trailers or TV spots, and it wasn't until it was recommended to me a few years ago, and also listening to the score, it really got me intrigued to see it. Once I saw it, I was hooked and so thrown back by the incredible visual design. I love the world the production team created, a beautiful blend of film noir and German expressionism with a very toxic and limited colour palette to its visual design. It's a huge shame it got overshadowed by The Matrix that was out a year later, and many comparisons have been made about the themes of what is reality, whereas if you don't pay much attention to the story of The Matrix, it still can be enjoyable for its fantastic action. But with The Dark City you have to pay attention to the plot, which isn't difficult to do, but you can feel lost if you have a short attention span and you may dismiss it. But what works in its favour is that the look of the movie and its ideas and philosophies draw you into it and keep you returning to it to discover new things you missed the first time. With movies, I don't like things being spelled out for me. It's fun to make discoveries along the way, and for there to be some ambiguity to it, and there to be some mystery to the ideas laid out in the movie. If you are studying film at the moment at university or college, and have to analyse a film, Dark City is always a great choice. It's a multi-layered film with fantastic ideas and themes. You may have already discussed this movie, as many teachers and academics use this movie as part of their teachings. You could criticise the movie for having essentially large chunks of exposition, but it's used carefully throughout the film for John Murdoch to unravel the secrets of the city and his past, and it also helps the audience understand more of the ideas behind the story and many of the characters' motives. If you've never seen Dark City, I really hope this video has encouraged you to seek it out. It's truly a work of art. It's probably one of the best looking films I've ever seen, up there with Ridley Scott's Blade Runner and Legend. It is the most interesting film produced in the 90s, and it still holds up extremely well today, and is always worth revisiting time and time again.
Scaring your wife to death, Eddie.
She's not my wife. I don't know who she is. I don't know who any of us are.
What makes you say that?
You think about the past much, Frank?
Much as the next guy.
See, I've been trying to remember things. Clearly remember things from my past. But the more I try to think back, the more it all starts to unravel. None of it seems real.
You heard of a place called Shell Beach? Sure. You know how to get there?
Yeah.
You tell me?
Right. You just, you go to the...
Where do you go?
Just give me a second, will you?
You can't remember, can you?
Hey! How come the train didn't stop?
That's the express.
There's no way out, you know. You can't get out of the city. Believe me, I've tried.
When was the last time you remember doing something during the day?
What do you mean?
I just mean during the day. Daylight. When was the last time you remember seeing it? And I'm not talking about some distant, half-forgotten childhood memory. I mean, like yesterday, last week, when?
Why are they doing all this?
All they have are collective memories. They share one group mind. They're dying, you see. Their entire race is on the brink of extinction. They think we can save them.
You want to know what it was about us that made us human? Well, you're not going to find it in here. You went looking in the wrong place.
What are you going to do now, John?
You told me I had the power, didn't you? I can make these machines do anything I want. Make this world anything I want it to be. Just so long as I concentrate hard enough.